Hi guys, welcome to my first ever episode for my Mumverse podcast. I just wanted to make this little podcast just so I've got somewhere that I can just go and chat and maybe, I don't know, strike up a conversation with different mums about different topics. This is going to be like a really casual podcast. I don't want nothing too like formal or informative. It's just going to be like my experience of being a first time mum. A little background story. I am a 27-year-old mother in the UK. First time mum. I had my little girl in April of 2021 this year during lockdown, so it was a bit of a different experience to what I feel like most women have had while giving birth and all of that. So I thought it might be nice for me to just share my experience on here, so if there are any other ladies listening that are about to give birth in the current climate of what's going on in the world today, then I feel like this might help them to prepare for their labour journey, because I know that when I was about to give birth and go into labour, that I had like the antenatal classes and a couple of people told me their experiences from when they had their babies from way back when, and I felt like I knew what was going to happen, but it did not prepare me for what actually happened. So I feel like this might be nice for new to be parents to listen to. My story is nowhere near like a horror story of labour, but that being said, it wasn't like a normal average labour. There was quite a few things that happened that I feel that the majority of labours don't experience this. So I feel like from this point of view it might be handy for people to hear what happened so they are a bit more prepared for, worst case scenario type thing. So before we get into my story, I just want to say thank you for listening so far. Please continue. Please like this video of my little podcast as well, and subscribe to my YouTube channel so you know when more podcasts and things come out. I'd love to hear any comments or any suggestions of anything that you would like me to chat about. I am open to chat about literally anything. I'm sure everybody has an opinion of everything. So yeah, please like this video of my podcast, please subscribe to my channel, and let's get into my little story time. So it all started on Friday the 16th of April. It was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon and I had experienced a little bit of like light bleeding and I couldn't feel baby girl move for like most of the day, so I was really worried. So I phoned up my partner at his work and said, look, I feel like I need to go get checked out. I have not felt baby move in a while, I've had some bleeding. So he said, just call the midwifery-led unit. So I did, and as I explained the situation to them, I said, look, I'm 40 weeks pregnant plus 5 days. I've not had any like movement for most of the day and I've had a little bit of bleeding. So they said, okay, come in, we'll check you out, we'll monitor baby's heartbeat and go from there. So I phoned up my partner again and told him what they had said. So he said, okay, I'm coming home now from work and we will go together, we'll pack the car up just in case and we'll go down to the hospital together. Our hospital is about, say, a 45-minute drive, maybe even an hour during rush hour, so it's quite far away from our house. So my partner took about 15 minutes to get home. We packed the car up and we headed off. When we got to the hospital, obviously, you have to be masked up and hand sanitizer and all that stuff, but my partner was able to come into the what do they call it, like the inspection room where they like check you out. I don't know what they call it. triage, I think, but he was able to come in with me, which was amazing. We were in the room for quite a while actually, and the midwife had put some heartbeat monitors on my belly. She was struggling a little bit to keep them in place and find a heartbeat. She had to keep pressing down quite firmly, but I do have a little bit of a belly, so that is probably why the fat is getting in the way. But yeah, we were in there for a while, and she found the heartbeat and she was monitoring it for a really long time, and she came to a point where she was happy with the heartbeat and said that, you know, everything's fine, and she offered me the stretch and sweep. Now, I was supposed to be getting the stretch and sweep the next day from my community midwife, so I just said, you know, I'm getting it tomorrow anyway, so I may as well just get it now with you. You've offered it, so why not? And this stretch and sweep, oh my god, it was so uncomfortable. It was horrible. So what a stretch and sweep is, if you don't know, is the midwife puts 2 fingers, I think it is 2 fingers, up your vagina. And with one of her fingers, she goes around your cervix and kind of moves around the membrane and the amniotic sac that the baby is in. And because she's got 2 fingers up there, she can also kind of like push her fingers apart to kind of try and open your cervix up a little bit, I think that's what it is. But anyway, she did that. It was quite uncomfortable and felt really, really weird, but it wasn't really, really painful. It just felt really uncomfortable. So once she had done that, she had actually said to me, you know, your cervix is actually 1 centimetre dilated. Dilation means, you know, when your cervix goes from really closed up and it opens up to 10 centimetres so your baby can pass through. So she said, you know, your cervix is 1 centimetre dilated, so the process is starting, but because it's your first baby, it can go very slowly. But the stretch and sweep could help. So great, you know, lovely. So I had the stretch and sweep. She was happy with baby's heartbeat, and she just sent us on our way, really, back home. She said, just wait it out. If you get any problems, call us back. If you have any questions, call us back. And she said, you've got to really wait until the contractions are like quite regular, quite close together, until you can come back, because they could potentially send you away again. And because we live quite far away from the hospital, she didn't want to keep like sending us away every time we came in. So she sent us away, and cheekily we went to McDonald's. And literally, McDonald's is probably about a 5-minute drive away from the hospital. And we did the click and collect type thing at McDonald's, where you can order it on their app and then they bring it out to you in the car park. So we were sat in the car park, and I could like feel like these niggly like little aches and pains, but they were only in my back. They were not in the front, but they were starting to get quite uncomfortable. And I cannot remember how close together they were, but they probably were every like 10-15 minutes or so. But they obviously varied, but they were quite uncomfortable to the point where I had to kind of stop and think, I can't eat at the minute because I'm in pain. So I felt like the stretch and sweep really had like kick-started everything, because pretty much as soon as she did it, I started getting pains. So we ate our McDonald's. It was very, very yummy. And then we went home. So I can't remember what time we got home. Again, this is like 3 months ago, so I feel like I've just kind of blocked it out of my memory. So we got home and we were just like relaxing as much as I could, really. And throughout the night and that evening, I was getting pains. They were quite uncomfortable. At some points, it was getting a little bit difficult to sleep, but I eventually got to sleep and had quite a good night's sleep. But when I woke up, I was in quite a lot of pain still, with my back on and off, and they were getting worse and worse. And I was getting to the point where I had to kind of like use a few breathing techniques. I had to do that distraction technique, you know, where you rub something really hard that's textured, or you're squeezing something, or like flicking yourself or something to like kind of divert your pain receptors to what you're doing instead of the pain that you're going through in my back and stuff. So I was doing that for a while, and like breathing and panting, and I think at one point I started swearing and saying all sorts of things. Like, I'm not going to repeat them, but when I'm in pain I swear and curse a lot. So I was doing all that and doing it all throughout the morning, and the pain was gradually getting worse and worse and worse. So it got to a point where I was thinking, maybe it would be a good idea to phone up the hospital, get some advice, because we were tracking my contractions on this app, and I had had a shower and got all of our bags ready and stuff that were already in the car. I got more stuff, more snacks and stuff. And I thought it would be time to phone up and just ask and see, what they advise and stuff. So we phoned them up and said, our contractions are, they're getting quite regular, they're quite painful. Sometimes it's quite hard to speak through them, which the midwives say is a good sign that, you'll get in there. So we phoned them up and they said, come down and we will check you up. So we went back down again and went back into the triage midwifery rooms, and again they checked the heartbeats, they examined me by putting their fingers up there and seeing how dilated I was and all that, and turns out I was only 2 centimeters dilated, and I was gutted because I was in so much pain. I kept thinking to myself, if I'm in this much pain only at 2 centimeters dilated, what on earth am I going to be like when I'm like 5, 6, 7 centimeters, or when I have to push? Like, it's going to be awful. I'm the type of person that isn't very good with pain anyway, so at this point I was getting quite worried that I wouldn't be able to cope with the pain, and I was going to have like a crazy mental breakdown or something. So they said, we can offer you this tablet. I can't remember what the name of the tablet is, but it's kind of like, I think it was like codeine or cocodamol. I don't know what it was, but it was some like really like heavy duty pain tablet. So I said, yes, okay, give me the tablet please, anything please. Begging them for pain relief, basically, because I had already had paracetamol, so I just kind of wanted the next thing up. So I had this tablet, and because I was in so much pain, I really did not want to go home. So I said to them, because they were going to send me home, and I explained to them, please, like, we live like an hour away, I'm in so much pain, I really want more pain medication, paracetamol is not cutting it for me, and please just, don't send me home, because it's like an hour away. So it'd be like an hour there to get home, and then if I'm in even more pain and my contractions are even more regular, then it's like another hour back to the hospital. So I just said, please don't send me home. So they said, okay, right, let me just see what we can do really quick. So they went away. I don't know who they were talking to or whatever, but in my hospital there's like a birth centre where like the low risk ladies can go, and you can have like a water birth or a hypnobirth or whatever in like a really nice big relaxing room with like lights and music and all this. Or there's the birthings, I think it's a birth suite or something, where everybody else goes, basically, that people that are higher risk go, people that don't want water births and things like that go, people who want like the heavy duty pain meds, they all go to this other birthplace. And because they're in the same building, they're quite close together. So they came back in and they were like, look, we have a room in the birthing centre. Obviously you can't stay there to give birth because I was quite higher risk. So they said, you can't stay there to give birth, but you can go through the labour process in that room. You don't have to go home. We'll keep checking on you. You can have a bit of a higher pain med, and we can like monitor you and stuff. So I was like, oh my god, I love you, thank you so much, you're amazing. So we went over to the birth centre. My partner got all of our bags. It was a lovely big room. It had this lovely pool in it. I would have loved to have given birth in that pool. Water just relaxes me so much, but it just wasn't feasible. So we were in that room for quite a while. My partner was able to stay with me, thankfully, for the whole time, but he did like go out, have a little walk around, get some fresh air, and obviously get the bags and things. So he was allowed to like leave the building and come back again, because I have heard that some places, once you're in the room, you cannot leave the room. But thankfully he was allowed to like go out, get some fresh air, walk around and stuff. And I had this pain tablet, and I was still struggling. I was getting there, I was coping, I was kind of like in my own head, just trying to cope with the pain. And I just kept thinking to myself, come on, Laura, you're only 2 centimeters dilated, you know, it's going to get so much worse, you can do this, come on. And so the midwife that was working in the birth centre, she kept coming in and like checking on me, and she said, I can see you're in a lot of pain, would you like any more pain relief? And I said, okay, yes, what can you give me? And she said, we can give you a pethidine injection in your leg, and that will kind of like help with the pain. So I was like, yes, please, okay, please give it me now. So she went off and got all the bits, obviously, you know, paperwork and whatever as well, and she came back and she gave me the injection in my leg. It kind of helped, but you know, she said it's not there to take the pain away, it's just there to like kind of take the edge off the pain a little bit, maybe. So it kind of helped a little bit, but again, I was still in a lot of pain. So a few more like hours went by, and I was just like in there with my pain, trying all these different positions. I was like getting on all fours. I was on this big bouncy exercise ball. That helped a lot, the bouncy ball. Bouncing up and down on that bouncy ball helped a lot. My partner was there, so every time I had a contraction, I was kind of like really squeezing his hand and like going all rigid and all that. So after a little while, obviously throughout the time I was in that room, I was being checked by the midwife with a little Doppler every once in a while, and she had given me the pethidine injection and then kind of just like left us to it for a bit, because obviously it was my first baby, so labour takes a long time for your first, the majority of the time. So she came in after a while and said, we, you know, just have a quick check of baby's heartbeat, and she had this little Doppler. So she put it up against my belly, and after a while, like her trying to find it, her face kind of changed, and I knew like, oh, something's happening, something's wrong, like what the hell is going on? And she said, I'll just be back in a minute, I'm not happy about this, and just kind of left the room. And we were just like, what is going on? Because I knew what a Doppler was supposed to sound like from all my midwife appointments when they check. So I kind of knew that the sound that she was searching for wasn't there. So I was kind of thinking, maybe she can't find her heartbeat. So she came back in with this other lady with a wheelchair and basically said to me, I'm struggling to find the heartbeat, I'm not happy about this, I want you to go back over to delivery suite so they can like properly check you and sort something out, because I'm not happy with you being here at the low risk side. So my partner got all the bags and I got on the wheelchair, and they wheeled us over into this delivery suite room. And then the midwives obviously handed over what was going on with me, and the midwife that I was now being looked after with said that I can have gas and air, which honestly, gas and air is the most amazing thing, but it made me so sick. Because once we got in the room, she obviously hooked up the gas and air and said, I want to do an examination, and while I'm there, I'd like to put a heartbeat monitor clip on baby's head, because she had also tried to find baby's heartbeat with the monitors that you strap onto your belly, and she was struggling. So she said, I want to examine you, put a clip on baby's head to monitor the heartbeat and oxygen levels, and see if we can break your waters. So that's what she did. She gave me the gas and air, and I was puffing away, and she said, you know, keep puffing, get it in your system type thing. And she did. She examined me, she put the clip on baby's head, and she popped my waters. I didn't feel anything because obviously at this point I was puffing so hard. I probably shouldn't have been puffing so much, but I was puffing that much that the best way I can describe how the gas and air felt is if you're really, really, really drunk to the point where you can't really see out of your eyes, and you kind of like, you have your eyes closed, or like they're kind of like rolling around, and you're just like really slurring your words. It just feels like you're absolutely paralytic drunk. But it took the pain away, and I couldn't feel what she was doing, so I'm quite thankful for that, because I didn't really want to experience her doing all those 3 things. But to be fair to her, she did them quite quickly. So once all that was done, she was just kind of monitoring my progress. She would kind of like leave the room, and then after a while she'll come back and like chat to us, ask me how I'm feeling, you know, watch the monitor, see what all that's doing. And throughout this time I was obviously puffing quite a lot on the gas and air, and the midwife and my partner kept saying to me, you know, when the contraction has finished, once the pain has subsided a bit, you need to come off the gas and air and take a few fresh air breaths. Because all I was doing was having this gas and air like crazy, to the point where it made me projectile vomit so much. If you've ever been into a hospital, you know they have those cardboard you can hear the baby in the background, but they have those cardboard bowls that you have to be sick in. They're about the size of a large cereal bowl, maybe a little bit bigger, but I filled 7 of those cardboard bowls right to the top. But it wasn't like the usual kind of vomit, it was like just pure water. And I think my partner said it kind of changed colour. It went from being like a yellowy to like a greeny to like clear. So it was literally just pure water coming out of my body, which wasn't a very good thing, because that made me severely dehydrated, to the point where I had to have multiple drips after giving birth. So while this was all going on, I was regularly checked, and obviously my partner was there giving me support, and the midwife was constantly coming in and out. But I kept saying that it was just too much, it's too painful, and in the end I I pretty much begged the midwife to give me the epidural. I was like, please, I can't do it, please give me the epidural. And she kept saying to me, you know, you're doing amazing, you're doing really well. And I was like, I just felt like I was completely freaking out. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but my mental headspace was just, no, I can't do it, I just need the epidural. So after a lot of begging and her trying to reassure me, she went and got the I think it's called the anaesthetist, the chap, and he came in, and I had to sign all this paperwork while I was in pain. I was just like, yes, just sign it, whatever, just give it to me now, I don't care. Before I got the epidural, the midwife had to check me to see how far along I was, because I think after a certain point, if you're too dilated, you can't get the epidural because it's too late. And I think it's because it just won't work quick enough to be effective. So they only give it to you up to a certain point. So when she checked me, turns out I was 5 centimetres. So I had got halfway, and I think if I had carried on, I wouldn't have been able to push. I wouldn't have been there. I mean, I probably would have. I probably would have just found it in myself to do it, but I was just so tired at this point, and it had been like pretty much all through the night until like the early hours of the morning. I was going through all of this, and I think because it was my first baby, labour kind of moves quite slowly, so I think it would have just been way too much, and the pain was super intense. So I got to 5 centimetres, they gave me the all clear to have the epidural. I was so thankful. So then they obviously got all the equipment ready, all these people came in the room. I think there was a couple of midwives, obviously the doctor, there was a student doctor, and then I had to sit on the edge of the bed with my legs up on a chair, and I had to kind of hug a pillow and like lean right forward so my back stretched out. When they do the epidural, it's like this really long needle that goes in to your back. I think it goes in between like some vertebrae, so your spine has to be quite stretched out, and then that's where the tube goes to administer the drip of the epidural. So honestly, if I didn't have the gas and air, this would have been a horrible experience. I'm so afraid of needles as it is. And the feeling of it going in my back was awful. And they had to do it twice because the first time I think he missed or something. He didn't get it in right. So he did it the second time and he got it in. He taped me up and everything to obviously keep it in place. But the feeling of it going in, it was like a really sharp stabbing pain, and then it just stung like quite a lot. But because I knew what it was, I obviously in my head thought it was a lot worse than probably what it was. And I was like puffing and groaning and whining through the gas and air tube. Honestly, I was puffing this gas and air so much, it started to like make my teeth tingle. So once he had put the tube for the epidural drip in my back and taped me up and everything, and I can sit back down on the bed, then he administered, I think he called it like a booster. It's just like a shot of like strong epidural that goes through straight away to kind of like get it going. And then once the shot has gone through, like the booster's gone through, then that's when they hook up the proper epidural bag, and then that's when the continuous drip comes. So he hooked me up to the booster, flushed it all through, whatever, and then he left. And I thought, oh great, I've got the epidural, it's going to work for me, it's going to be amazing, I'm going to have no pain. And I was laying there thinking, like, I could still feel the pain. It wasn't as bad. It was probably like about maybe 75% of the pain that I was experiencing first. So it was pretty bad still, but it wasn't as bad, but I could still feel it to the point where I was thinking, ow, give me the gas and air just to take the edge off a little bit. So I thought, oh my God, I started like kind of panicking a little bit, thinking, this epidural isn't going to work for me, because I know from like reading things online that sometimes for certain women the epidural hasn't worked and it has no effect. So I was thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be one of these people that the epidural just doesn't work and it's going to be awful. Thankfully, my angel midwife came in with this other midwife, and they were just like checking heartbeats and looking around and doing all that sort of stuff, seeing how I am and everything. And I kept saying to him, like, I can still feel pain, like it hurts. And then the other midwife that my midwife came in with clocked the epidural bag on the table, and she was like, what is this doing here? It's the epidural. And I was just like, is that not meant to be hooked up? And she was like, they haven't hooked it up, they've just left her with the booster. And obviously the booster had run out, so thankfully she came in, she hooked up the big bag of epidural fluid and then flushed a little bit of it through the tubes so it would go into my system and start taking effect. So once they had sorted out the epidural and made sure that I was alright and that baby was okay and that we were all comfortable and had everything that we needed, honestly these midwives were so good. They gave me the epidural button. It's basically a button that you get that shines red and green. Red is when the epidural fluid's going through and it's pumping through, and green is when it's stopped and you want like a top up. So I was in control of that, so whenever it went red, I pressed it green straight away. And at first, I could still feel my legs, I could move them around and move my toes and everything. I didn't stand up, obviously, but, I could feel them, I could move them on the bed and stuff. But after a while of pressing this button multiple times, my whole legs, all the way down to my feet, and like the lower half of my tummy, all went completely numb. It was the weirdest experience ever. Like, they're there, you can see them, but you can't move. no matter what you do. So it was very, very strange. But honestly, I could literally recommend the epidural so much. It actually changed my whole experience. It was like night and day. Before the epidural, I was like puffing on the gas and air like crazy. I was moaning, crying, whinging, screaming, you name it. Like, I was in so much pain. I was so uncomfortable. It was awful. And then once I had the epidural in and it was taking effect and numbing everywhere, oh my goodness, it was honestly amazing. I couldn't feel any pain anymore, and I wasn't being sick either because I wasn't having any more of the gas and air. So I was able to drink, I was able to eat a little bit. I even had a couple of hours of sleep because this was all going on in like the really early hours of the morning. So I had gone for like pretty much 24 hours almost without any sleep, and I was exhausted. So the epidural helped me get a bit of sleep, which was amazing. The midwives were coming in and checking on us every now and again, just looking at the monitor, baby's heartbeat and everything every now and again, just making sure we were all right. But they were still giving us a chance to get some sleep because they obviously knew that we were, in there for so long. And I think it must have been about 8 a.m. because my midwife and another midwife came in and they were doing a sort of handover. Obviously, my midwife was the night shift lady and the day shift lady had come in, so she needed to catch up on what was going on. So we were being introduced. She was a lovely, lovely lady, and she was obviously, looking at the monitor, talking to us, getting a bit of background, asking us questions about where we live, our life, just general chit chat. She kept observing the monitor for baby's heartbeat, and she was also reading up on all of my notes. There was a lot of notes from like the whole night, so there was a lot to read through, but she read through all of it. And then she came to examine me. When she examined me, she said I was 9.5 centimeters dilated. So I was really excited because I was thinking, it's getting close to the time. I'm going to beat my baby soon. It's really exciting. It'd be nearly time to push. Only 0.5 of a centimeter left to go. Like, I was like really excited. However, she did say that there was a slight lip on my cervix, so she wasn't sure whether my cervix would dilate fully to 10 centimeters basically because of that lip. So with my permission, she tried to move the lip out of the way a little bit. Obviously didn't work. And so then she went and spoke to the doctor. And while this was all happening, before she went to speak to the doctor, she noticed on the monitor that baby's heart rate kind of went a bit doolally and my heart rate went a bit crazy as well. And it had triggered a stan event. Basically, from what I gather, a stan event is when the clip on baby's head monitors that baby's oxygen levels have dropped significantly and the heart rate has gone crazy, basically. So it means baby is in distress and she needs to come out straight away. So after the midwife saw that on the monitor and had an unsuccessful attempt at moving that lip away from my cervix, she said to me that she needs to go and speak to the doctor in charge of the delivery suite, and we are either going to be doing a assisted delivery with forceps or it will be an emergency cesarean. But we're going to go and have the conversation with the doctor and see what the doctor said. So she left the room and me and my partner were just kind of sat there thinking, oh my god, like this is like pretty much, for me, worst case scenario, because throughout my whole pregnancy I said I do not want forceps and I do not want to have a cesarean. So for her to say that, they were my only two options really, because we had to get the baby out pretty much straight away, it was kind of heartbreaking, but at the same time I understood because baby was in distress and we needed to get her out safely. So after about 5, 10, 15 minutes or so, the midwife and the doctor and a bunch of other people came flooding into the room pretty much. And the doctor basically said to me that the only option is an emergency C-section. There's no time. There is no point in trying with the forceps to do a natural, like, vaginal birth, because it will probably just put baby in a heck of a lot more stress. So we need to get emergency C-section right now to get her out right now. So as soon as he said that, I gave my permission for it all to go ahead. So I had to sign a bunch more forms, and a different anaesthetist, obviously the day one, came in. He was a nice man, and he had to change my epidural for a seriously stronger epidural. I didn't even realise there were like two different strengths. The one I was on wasn't going to cut it for a cesarean, so he had to seriously up my dosage of a much, much higher strength epidural. I also had to sign more forms for him. He also put a cannula in my arm for more drips and other drugs that he had to administer for the cesarean. So during this time, before we even went down to theatre, there was just a lot of things going on in my delivery room. There was so many people in there. They were all asking me questions. They were all talking to each other. You know, it was very, very disorientating. My partner had to get into scrubs. He wore some nice blue Crocs and some blue scrubs, and he had a hairnet on. He looked very, very fashionable. And I had to take off all of my jewellery, like my rings and my earrings and things. But I didn't have to get changed or put a hairnet on. So I was wheeled down in the beds to theatre. My partner followed me, and he was told to bring a little nappy and a little hat for baby for when she comes out, because obviously she might pee and poo everywhere and she will be cold. So once we're in the room, I was transferred from my bed onto the theatre bed. A curtain was put up just on my belly. My partner was given a chair and sat right next to me, and there were a lot of people in this room. My goodness. There were obviously the two doctors that were operating on me. There was my midwife, my anaesthetist, obviously my partner, and then there were just a load of extra nurses and other people that I have no idea who they were. They all introduced themselves to me and told me what they were there for, but I can't remember for the life of me, but I just remember there was so many people, and my midwife and anaesthetist were asking me so many questions. The doctor was asking me so many questions, and obviously everybody was talking amongst themselves, saying what they were going to do and all this sort of stuff, and it was just so much was going on. It was really, really disorientating. So they did ask me if I wanted any music playing while this was all going on, but you know, I really wasn't that bothered. I just said the radio's fine, but I don't actually remember hearing the radio, so I don't know whether they put it on or not. And the doctor also asked me whether when they're about to bring baby out, I would like them to lower the curtain. I did say yes, but this didn't end up happening. I was a bit sad about that, but it's fine. So throughout the whole process, my anaesthetist kept asking whether I was okay. He kept explaining what medication he was putting in me, and my midwife was also stood right next to me and my partner, so she was like explaining everything that was going on. Like, she was looking behind the curtain, telling me what was happening, saying, oh, they're about to do this, they're about to do this. She was amazing. She was really, really nice. She was really, really attentive. Lovely, lovely lady. So when they pulled her out, my partner didn't get to cut the cord initially. They kind of pulled her out, cut it, wrapped her up, put her on the bed, and went straight to the incubator behind me. My partner then went with them and was able to cut a bit more of the cord off that was still attached to her stomach. So that was a bit of a shame, but they needed to tend to her. They got her crying quite quickly, which I was so thankful for, but I was really quite sad because I couldn't see her. I had to really crank my head right back and look right behind me while I was laying down. She was literally above my head, and all I could see was these three midwives surrounding this little incubator, and my partner stood just to the side. So I kept saying to him, take pictures, please take some pictures, because I couldn't see her. And at this point, it must have been about half an hour into the whole process, I started to like really, really violently shake. Like my whole body was just uncontrollably shaking. And I tried to like tense myself up so I wouldn't shake so much, but I just could not help it. My whole body was violently shaking. And apparently this is a side effect of having the epidural. So I felt really, really cold. My body was violently shaking, and I kept saying like, I'm cold to the anaesthetist. He went and got me, it was quite a thin blanket, and covered me up, and then I was able to finally see my baby. My lovely midwife brought her over in the little trolley with my partner, and I was able to kind of like rest her head on my chest and kind of stroke her and see her face for the first time, and she opened her eyes, and it was really nice. I couldn't hold her fully, but my partner did, and he sat next to me for quite a while with her in his arms, and that was really nice. So after a little while, the midwives had to kind of take her back so they could sort her out, sort out her cord. They needed to give her her vitamin K injection, do her weight and her length and head circumference and all that sort of stuff. So they took her back, and my partner went back there with them. And during this time, my shaking got even worse, and I was absolutely freezing at this point. I was so cold. So I kept saying, you know, please, I'm so cold. I just could not stop shaking. So my anaesthetist went and got this little machine thing. It's this blanket that he completely covered me in, and he attached this like hot air blower to it, and then it all like puffs up above you and kind of cocoons you in this nice warm air bubble. At first he only had it up to my chest, but then I pulled it so it completely covered my head as well, because I was that cold and shaking that much. I don't know how long I was under that blanket for, but my partner said I was under there for quite a long time, and I actually fell asleep because I was so nice and warm and cozy. But it stopped my shaking, so I was so thankful to him for going to get this blanket machine. It was amazing. So after a little while of me being asleep under this blanket machine, I obviously woke up and they were still working on my belly. I think it's half an hour for them to open you up and get baby out, and then I think it's about an hour for them to sew you back up and everything again. But it took them a little bit longer to sew me up because there was a problem, but I don't know what it was. They didn't tell me, but they just said it was a bit more complicated. So once I had woken up, the midwife explained to me that they are now going to go with my partner and baby and take us to the recovery room. I obviously had to stay because I was still getting sewn up, but they were going to go take everything to the recovery room. So off they went, and then it was a little while later that I was transferred back onto my wheeled hospital bed, and I was wheeled then into the recovery room. I then had multiple midwives and doctors come in to check on me. I had to have bloods taken. They were quite concerned because I didn't pass much urine. Because I had a catheter in from having the epidural, they were able to monitor my urine, and I had hardly passed anything, and it was seriously dark. So they were really, really concerned that I was dehydrated because I was being sick so much while on gas and air. They put me on multiple drips. It was literally like drip after drip after drip, and it took quite a few hours for my urine output to pretty much go back to normal again, and then all of a sudden it was like the floodgates opened. So I'm going to talk more about my postpartum recovery process in the next episode of my podcast. Because this video is getting quite long now, I don't want to bore you too much. So stay tuned for my next episode. I'm going to be talking all about my postpartum recovery for the past 3 months. It's a little bit gory and gross, but it's quite a good story. So stay tuned for that. Please like this podcast video and please subscribe to my channel so you know when I next upload. And also, if you want, press the notification bell so you're notified when I upload. Also, please do leave any comments down below of, you know, your experiences, if you have any questions for me or any recommendations of other things you would like me to chat about on this podcast. I have quite a few little things lined up that I want to do already, but I'm open to suggestions. So thank you all so much for listening. If you got to the end of the video, I highly appreciate it. You are all amazing, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!